Wizard with a gun. When you hear that, you probably think of the Harry Potter clips where they edited all the wands out, added in the guns instead, or the Hogwarts Legacy mod where you pretty much could do the same exact thing just with a little bit more oomph. And now I hope that you can fit in this tiny little game that is coming out hopefully this year that I think is just a gem that I found during the Steam Next Fest, and that is Wizard with a Gun. For those of you that don't know, Steam's Next Fest is a somewhat celebration of the upcoming games of this year, and Wizard with a Gun is just one of those ones that I really looked at specifically because of the name. I don't know about you, but Wizard with a Gun kind of does something for me. So taking a closer look at it, Wizard with a Gun is an online co-op sandbox survival game that takes place in kind of like a magical wilderness with tons of different creatures, tons of different weapons, and a lot of fun. The gist of the story, from what I can understand through the demo, is that there is this world-ending kind of danger that they call the Arcane that I think destroyed the world. However, you, with some of your friends or the characters in the game, are going to be able to go back in time and use this Arcane to actually constantly rebuild the world to, one, make yourself stronger, and two, hopefully end up defeating that final boss. Through the game, you will be playing as a wizard that you're able to create yourself. You're able to customize your gear as well as add on new equipment. And that wizard is just gonna, be exactly what the name is. A wizard with a gun. And a lot of the magical stuff comes in regards to enchanting your weapons, changing your bullets out. They're technically spells in the game, but they're bullets with really cool elemental equipments, basically. But you can change things like the range of your shot, how your shot goes, the blast radius, the bullet trails, and even kind of the crosshair status that shows when you hover over an enemy, which is really, really cool. And there's a lot of different types of rarities you can see. The demo only has a handful, but I have to say, if this is even somewhat intriguing, definitely go download the demo. It was a fantastic play. I found myself several hours into this very small demo that only has a handful of levels. It is definitely one of those games where you will find yourself gathering almost everything you see, and I feel like they have a very kind of fun mechanic to make sure you're using those materials as well as make sure you're not spending too much time out there in that overworld. While in the demo we are only in one biome, there is set to be multiple different biomes like deserts, swamps, tundras, and prairies, and they are just kind of out there in this fractured world, and you'll constantly be going to these different areas, gathering new materials, and destroying new enemies. And while you're not out in the madness, you will have this home base called the Tower. In the Tower, you're going to have all of your crafting benches, all of your different materials stored, and this is basically your home base for when you want to do some upgrades. While you are able to build all of this outside in one of the maps, those are somewhat instanced, and you will never go back to that same instance that you go into. So unless necessary, you probably don't want to build something out there. You want to keep the majority of it in your base. And now, while the demo was a little small, there was still a lot of really fun gameplay. The core mechanics are pretty straightforward. It's a point-and-click shooter. You just aim towards the enemies. Depending on what your weapon is, you'll have different ranges. And basically, there's pretty nice indicators for when the enemies are going to attack you and with what type of attack. That way, you're not really being surprised by anything. There are hitboxes. You have a dodge. You shouldn't have to stress too much about things. Granted, we only got to play against some of the lower level mobs, so might get a little crazy based off the things that they show you on their Steam page. Definitely go look at it. But for the demo, you'll get to try out a couple different weapon types. You'll get to see all of the crafting benches that they've given you. You have this really nice book that you'll use to record both crafting benches as well as decorative building pieces. And through that, you'll be able to build those in your own home base. So, for example, I liked going the poison build. Poison's always fun. Dot is just a blast in general in almost every game, and they did it very well in this game as well. And basically, you are able to discover new types of bullets. There's fire, there's poison, there's cold, there's fear. There's a lot of really cool stuff, and that's just in the demo. So can only imagine that they're going to have a lot more in the actual base game. But basically, you can kind of pick your poison, which one you want to go for, and basically you're able to level all that up through the materials that you gather out in those instances. They call them expeditions. Now, when I was talking about things that kind of make sure you're using your materials and also make sure that you don't spend too much time in a certain expedition, the really fun thing in my opinion is having a lot of item sinks. So I appreciate games that make sure you're using your materials so you don't just stockpile hundreds of thousands of a certain material. That way you never really have to farm for it again. I found myself constantly having to go and gather the base materials because you have to even craft your bullets themselves. You have a finite ammo amount, and for me, I think that is so much fun because it makes sure that you're really using all of the materials in the world as well as gathering them all while you're playing. Now, when you're out on these expeditions, you'll turn back time and you'll be given a timer on the top of your screen. Now, this timer can be extended by destroying creatures of chaos and gathering arcana. This will extend the time that you're able to be out in this overworld. However, once that time does hit 0, the world begins to end. Now, I didn't let it go through and find out if it actually does end, but basically, after the clock hits 0, a ton of chaos creatures will begin to spawn, and you can use this time to farm up Arcana because it is a very good resource to have a lot of. It seems like they're going to be using it a lot in the game, but mobs do increasingly get stronger as you stay out there, so stay at your own risk because if you do die in this game, you will drop your items. So it is that high risk, high reward, kind of fun, enjoyable moment in the game. And you can do this in every single expedition. I would assume that there's going to be bosses spawning from this type of environment, as just in the short little demo that I played, there's multiple bosses. You might even want to just call them elite mobs for the sake of just the demo. I don't think we ran into anything with too insane of mechanics, basically. But there was a lot of unique creatures that had their own special attack styles, as well as damage types. And I would have to say that the world itself that they built out is very fun when it comes to the elemental damages that you'll be doing. Just some of the small interactions I ran into, say I poisoned an enemy or I got myself poisoned, if you jumped in water, you no longer poisoned. You could combine poison and fire damage for a unique type of damage. I don't exactly know what it was called because I never specifically had that type, but I did have a gun that shot both poison and fire bullets. While the demo was very short, I do have to say that this is definitely one of those buy on release games for me. The amount of time that you're going to be able to put into this game is immense, and just from the customations that they had in this demo, I'm extremely excited to see what is going to go on in the end game, basically, since there's multiple rarities of weapons, from common to, it looked like it went all the way up to purple, might go to orange, which is generally legendary, a little bit higher, as well as all the enchantments that you can give to your weapons and armor. I'm extremely excited to see how the combat is going to end up once you get a lot of resources, your base is built up, and you're in those higher level worlds with higher level minions. I would definitely recommend to anyone that is really into the kind of action survivor type of game, especially when it comes to both unique upgrades as well as unique playstyles, to definitely go download the demo. It's just a gig, it's a really small game, it runs very well. Also, I had no performance issues. Definitely go check it out yourself and let me know what you think, and as more information comes out on this game, I'll definitely keep up with it to keep you guys informed, because I'm really excited for this. It just was something that kind of piqued my interest because the name is absolutely ridiculous, and I do hope to see more from them. So as always, guys, really appreciate it. Hope you liked the video, and I hope to see you on the next one.